we are in need, look for the light. That's a combination because guess what? We're talking about the last 2 episodes of The Last of Us show. Let's get started.
Hey. But yeah, so I say, we don't have enough time to fully recap both the episodes. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight moments from episode 8 when we are in need. Talk through just a couple of things that stood out to us. Me and Jericho were talking a little bit before the episode. This episode was pretty different. I feel like differently paced and like a little bit different from the rest of the season. I really liked episode 8. What did you think? Troy Baker, I thought he did awesome.
It was definitely one of my favorite episodes because I think comparing it to the game, like it was so cool when you started playing as Ellie for the first time when most of the game you're playing as Joel. Mm-hmm. So that was like a nice little twist that you sort of didn't see coming for sure. And in the show, I would assume anyone that's never played the game maybe didn't expect to see Ellie sort of being the star of this episode. So I think they nailed obviously making you feel a similar sort of let me step into her shoes, and because I haven't really seen her perspective a whole lot in the show, because it's we're seeing a lot of emotional layers for Joel, and of course with the previous episode with her and Riley, you get a little bit of that, but I don't think you get to see her
things are now.
Yeah, and taking center stage and seeing how she would react in certain situations. You haven't really seen that yet for sure. I thought that was pretty cool.
I did too. I think in this episode you really get to see the impact Joel has had on Ellie in her physical circumstances. Like, for example, one of the notes I wrote down when she runs into David and Jake, Jake, I think is Troy Baker's the voice actor for Joel. And so it freaked me out hearing his voice also, because I was like, so you get to see like Ellie when she runs into them after shooting the deer, she's intimidating them and kind of showing what has rubbed off on her from Joel, the things that she's kind of learned from him while she's on her own. And obviously the stark contrast of she's this little girl and with this big gun, she's very menacing and intimidating looking. It's such a stark contrast, from what you think you would see, young girl by herself. And so I just think it's really cool how you get to see kind of the tools that Joel has kind of given her. I mean, she was already very resilient and all those things on her own, but I feel seeing the result of her time with Joel so far is pretty interesting. So but we do find out, so kind of I think something we could touch on is moments from this episode maybe that were different than the game, and how
I keep hitting the wrong button and making you wide, and instead of I'm trying to get you centered. I didn't do a good job of getting you centered. So if you see my face, it's not reacting to what you said. It's reacting to what I did to your face on accident. I keep hitting the wrong. I keep stretching you. I keep stretching you, and I'm like, oh, wrong button. I hope this is close to what your actual face looks like. I hope.
Oh my gosh, I'm so curious. I am also getting a delayed. I can't see it exactly what you're doing.
Let me fix it. I feel like this is closer to your face in real life.
All right.
Okay. And apparently I'm super loud now, so I don't know why. Thank you. This one a little rough around the edges. Is that what we say?
Apparently.
This one's rough.
Well,
from
thank you, Peach.
Producing standpoint.
We want you to tell us. Please tell us. Don't worry. Well, I'm just going to keep talking while you're working on that.
Perfect.
So you also get to see some more layers of closeness between Ellie and Joel. There's scenes oh my gosh, all the memes are so funny of him cuddled up in this blanket, Joel.
Oh yeah, he was like a little burrito. He's like Grogu.
Grogu. And so you see you get couple of shots after Ellie barters essentially to get the medicine to save Joel. Also, the memes are hilarious of like, hope Joel wasn't allergic to penicillin, you know?
I like how she called them buddy. All right, buddy boy. Why she say something funny
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
And I think I think I have a little screen grab from that scene comparing it. I stole these images. Well, I'm just using BuzzFeed's site to sort of like compare to the game a little bit. So let's see.
Peachbog said it actually might be that we need more of Kayla. So
Oh,
maybe
okay.
it's I'm quiet.
Let me turn you up a little bit, Kayla.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah, lots of memes from episode 8 for sure. I really liked hearing people's opinions on this one that didn't play the game, like because I listened to our friends like in the chat, Patrick and them's recap episode of this, and like talking about seeing like the culty church people in the post-apocalyptic that's hard environment. Post-apocalyptic is really interesting, and I think that I like the couple of things that they add like extra context from the game. So this was interesting, and this part seemed like a little bit of a stretch where they connect that Joel killed the man that was from David's camp that went missing. That seemed like a little bit of a stretch because I feel like that was really far away from where they were. Like, how did he kill the guy that, like, they insinuate that, like, you know, because they showed the meeting in the beginning with like the little girl and like her dad went missing, and Joel basically, or not Joel, David is basically like, yeah, Joel is the guy who he killed him. Like,
I don't know.
I don't know. It seems like that was super far in distance away. Like, how was that?
I mean, you're being smart about it. That's one thing that probably my little derpy brain I didn't even think about it. So, and I think that reminds me. You remind me of Audrey about those little details because like she mentioned something about one of the latest episodes and was like, why would this be this way? And I can't remember what it was, but it was similar. And I'm like, I don't know. Who knows? Like, I think they're just trying to put it together the best way they can.
You're right, and I think that sometimes I will hitch on certain details and think too logically about it. And I'm like, wait, what is that? Why? And I'm like, you know what? It's a TV show. So, so it's like, but yeah. So I was we get the shots of Ellie laying on Joel, and I love that you have that picture.
Yeah, it was a little funny picture they took together.
I've been loving Pedro and Bella Ramsey's pictures on Instagram.
I'm ready for some bloopers to come out. I want to see.
Yeah,
I want to see that
for sure. So yeah, basically, Ellie barters, and then another very upsetting for me was the horse death, which it wasn't as gruesome as the horse death in the game, though.
I didn't even think about you having to witness that, Kayla. Yeah. I bet that it was even a little jarring for me. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's sad.
So it was
and
sad.
They show it later. They show the meat in the fridge. Remember the horse meat? They show the horse body in the deep freezer. Triggering. You should have put a trigger warning. But it's not as bad as remember the horse death in the game where or is that the second game where they shoot it in the head and it's on screen?
Oh yeah, I was God, my memory's so bad today, Kayla. It is extra bad today. I think that was a bomb. I think it was a bomb that went off.
Yeah, it's like
yeah, and it falls off the side of the road or something.
Yeah, I think so too.
Traumatic. Also,
Rip Callus. Yeah, my little derpy brain.
I can remember in the game. Did the horse made it in the first game, right? I thought
I don't remember if the horse death I'm thinking of is.
I think it's from the second
in
game.
The game. Oh, okay.
Oh,
even worse.
I don't know. I'm sad.
Okay,
there's no safe horse. There's no safe place for horses in this world. No horse is safe. That's what I meant.
Except maybe Jackson. Maybe.
Yeah, they're safe there, but once they leave those gates, it's every horse for themselves.
One of my favorite scenes is when, not when Ellie gets captured, but how Joel reacts afterwards. And Ellie prepping him and being like, hey, and giving him the knife. And she's like, hey, if they come down here, you got to kill them. And so she's like hyping him up, and he's just like, ugh, and like still recovering. And she's like, yo, you got to get it together. And she's like trying to distract them and like run away. And that was probably one of my favorite scenes from this episode. And then you see like, you know, the guy looking for Joel, like goes down to the basement, and he's like hiding and stabs him. Then you get Joel's first torture session, which is cool.
What a lovely scene, you know, seeing Joel do his thing. And I you know,
map thing.
I love the map thing, because I'll say this, like, I don't know, it gets, you know, we'll go ahead and say this episode, you know, obviously we're not going to do, like, in hardcore spoilers for the second game, but we might have some light ones. So this is a light, I consider this a light spoiler. So if you're fine with that, please stick around. I do love that they're making this a big deal, like this way of interrogation that Joel, like one of his iconic like rules and ways of getting information from people. I love that they put this into the game that way. You know, it's gonna make its rounds again in the second game or in the second season.
Yeah,
and we know that scene very close to the horse scene that you spoke of earlier. I believe that's when that happens. No, maybe that's later. I have a bad memory. I just know we will see the importance of this tactic later on. So
Patrick in the chat is actually playing alongside as the episodes release. He was playing those parts in the game.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I'm sure that was very helpful. I definitely would have done that if I felt like I had the bandwidth to do that. But I did not, especially emotionally. Like, that's a lot. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting. And in my notes, I put, Christian cannibals. Yummy. Yummy. Yep. Were they cannibals in the game?
Yes, they were. Yeah, because that was the only way they could survive at the time, was being, you know, eating people.
Each other.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, how hungry you gotta get to eat someone's finger, Kayla? How hungry do you need to be? Because I'm not gonna lie, like, if I was starving, I now would not kill someone to eat them. That's a whole other thing. But if this person maybe had a heart attack, you know, and there's nothing else to eat, would I do it?
I mean,
would I do it? You'll never know. Not gonna tell you here.
Ooh, maybe on season 2 of ClickerBait.
Maybe. I can't promise that, but I don't know. I'm not gonna confirm or deny it. Just like Neil Druckmann and how he talks about everything when it comes to his projects. So, anywho, as we continue.
Yeah. So then we get really creepy David basically trying to. Essentially, I didn't really think about this at the time, but then watching after the episode, like trying to get Ellie to like be his wife, basically, or like really gross. Like,
I took it.
It kind of seems that way.
It is.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think like he. And one thing I'll say, I know you're about to get to this point, but this was one of my favorite scenes. Is really seeing, you know, after Ellie's captured and they're going back and forth, and something that was different from the game was. Their conversations changed up just a tad, and yes, he is being creepy. Yes, he's insinuating what you're stating from my perspective as well, because I agree with that. And I think she picks up on that too. I'll get back to that in a second, but she starts like, I don't know, like when he starts talking about like how he sees himself in her. That's definitely not in the game, and I thought that was really interesting to sort of highlight this point. Some people have said they like it, some people don't. I've seen some dialogue on socials about this bit of dialogue and how much they put a focus on. He's like, I see something. He tells Ellie, I see something violent in you. Like
you have a violent heart.
That was it. You have a violent heart, and I do too, and that's why we'd be great together. I'm not quoting them directly, but it was something along those lines, and just I thought that was I liked that bit of dialogue.
I did too.
They're definitely, I like to sort of see, like, it's not that she's actively being violent, but when she's put in a tough spot, the way she reacts is very violent.
Yeah.
And granted, she's been through some really crappy situations, so that is just her fight or flight response in these situations. She's been having to be tough her whole life. She's had no one to be able to stand up for her, so of course she's gonna react in this way. But back to the point of him being creepy. Yes, he's being creepy. I think maybe he's trying to, as we say, groom her into being, if you join my group, I will take care of you and you can help me grow this thing. And then also be
because
like one of many wives probably in this situation. Because like the way we didn't talk about this, but the girl that in the group that's talking about her dad that died and she's crying about it, he like I can't remember. I think he slaps her and says, "Enough of that. We're not gonna do that. I'm your father," basically. And it was very culty.
Setting the stage for his weird, how he crazy, I mean, they really play on it in the game, too.
And I understand from this, like, not all church situations are culty. I'm not saying that, but, like, I actually wish they would have leaned on more of a culty thing than, like, a religious thing. Because it's definitely, I get culty vibes. Like, they have twisted religion into this thing for these people. Which maybe that, I mean, I just said what they're trying to do with it, but it's definitely cultish. Yes, not good.
A lot of times that is kind of goes hand in hand, though. Like what happens is I'm sure it started as a normal church thing.
Yep.
And then like, exactly like you said, David molded it into what was useful for him to take advantage of people.
Over time when you're not eating and you are eating a human finger, there's things I'm sure that happen to the brain.
Yeah, and so the quote that he said was, "I'm a shepherd surrounded by sheep, and all I want is an equal."
Oh,
and
yes. I'm glad you
and I was
wrote
like,
that down.
"Ooh!" I wrote it down because I was like, "Ooh." But yeah, also really quick thing to note, like I said earlier, the frozen horse body in the barn, it looked so bad. It looked so fake. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
I didn't notice that.
I think I was traumatized by the horse death, and so I was like, "Is it really the horse?" And like, obviously, it's not. But and then the frozen bodies hanging from the chains were really creepy.
They're eating them. But yeah, I agree. Like the cannibalism necessarily wasn't like the main thing. It's just sort of like the just sort of what they had to do,
which almost makes it creepier. You know what I mean? Like it's very interesting.
This dude's that. There's no morals here.
So your favorite scene is the one that's coming up that this was a big change. They replaced the like sawmill scene where they have the clickers run up on them and then they're like fighting each other and the clickers at the same time in the sawmill. They replaced that with this like the butcher table scene. But you really liked
didn't know that. Like I've got a horrible memory right now and in general. That's cool. But yeah, I loved when Ellie was like, yes, this is my favorite part. I loved Bella Ramsey's delivery of this line. I've had it up here for the last probably like 10 minutes, but
oh yeah, that's right.
Compared to the game, like, because I actually went back and watched specifically this line like from the game to see how it compared, because you could have told me this is exactly how it went down in the game too, but she doesn't yell this in the game. She sort of like just tells him like, you tell him it's me, I'm Ellie's the little girl that broke your finger. And then but in the show it's way more dramatic and she screams it, and I loved it so much. It just takes me back to like her character she played in Game of Thrones. I can't think of the Lady Mormont, I think.
Mormont.
Yeah, just her screaming I love hearing Bella like yell and just like go after, cut throat. She does that so well.
It does also remind me of Tell Cersei I wanted her to know it was me, scene.
Very.
It's not Lady Mormont that says that, but it kind of reminded me of that. So Peachwag in the chat said, I feel like this was always his end goal, not the cannibalism necessarily, but using it to control his flock. Yeah, probably right. But yeah, the jail cell scene and like that was really cool. And then they take her out and put her on the table and she knocks the shit out of Troy Baker, Jake, dude.
And stabs him with a machete, I think, or a knife or something. That was fun. How cool.
She messes him up.
How cool to be, murdered by Ellie on a show.
Yeah.
That would have been one of my life's greatest moments,
And like, I love how they showed that after the episode of like Troy Baker talking about how much this game and show means to him and like how important it was to him. He was getting like emotional about it. And he was like, they also show like him getting stabbed, like the way they did like the special effects with that. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, so that was, and then, you know, we get straight into the restaurant thing, or like the dining area, which looks just like the game. Like, take a shot for every time we say that, obviously, but like,
it's just like the game.
it looked just like the game. Like the rest, like where you're running in circles trying to like duck around and like.
And of course, the whole time you're like, yeah, hide, Ellie. You need to be stealthy. Climb over there. Look for a brick. Throw a bottle. Whatever you can do to distract him.
Yep. This part was so hard in the game.
Yeah.
Like, it was so difficult. Like, it took me forever. And he's like kind of inhumanly like fast.
Yeah.
And I feel like they kind of show that in this show too. Obviously, it goes by faster in this show than it does the game, or yeah, and then the game. I thought I was twisting my words for a second. But yeah, and then we get to her beating the absolute shit out of David.
Yep. Well,
and the blood splattering.
Stabbing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was me doing it. Like,
do you have that still?
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a side by side.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
There's a side by side of that is pretty crazy. And if you're listening, you should definitely, like, if you have the time, you should definitely pull this up on YouTube and look, because it's pretty crazy how accurate it is. So yeah, side by side of Ellie killing David, like, it's crazy. That was probably my favorite scene. And obviously you get, you know, the moment of her reuniting with Joel after what she's done. And it's once again the common theme in the end of these episodes, like, somebody does something super traumatic and like survival mode, and then they just walk off into the distance together. You know, they're just like, all right, let's move on.
I do feel like, you know, that moment for Ellie is gonna be one of those, like, that is another, like, we so far in the show, obviously we learn about Riley in the last episode. And then just recapping what she's sort of experienced just since she's been on the road to Joel. And then what happened to Sam and Henry. So a lot of this is, you know, not blaming herself, but I'm sure she is feeling some kind of, like, obviously right after when she kills David, like, she's just terrified and, like, fighting for her life. But on top of that, like, I know we jump ahead. We jump a little while after with the next episode from here, but I couldn't imagine, like, I feel, if I were her, if I were in her shoes, I would feel like everything's my fault. The things we've had to go through, the people have died. I couldn't save Sam. I couldn't save Riley. And then on top of that, Joel was hurt. I almost died. I almost, you know, died. Like, all because I'm just trying to get to the Fireflies to be the cure. Like, so it's just more motivation on, like, why she must succeed at doing this. Because, like, it has been a journey. And it's just, like, you know, that is... I think that's why we go into the next episode, which I think we're about to start talking about. Like, why she just went through a very traumatic event with David. That's terrifying. And then on top of that, like... probably just trying to say, like, she's probably thinking, you know, I really hope all of this is worth it. Like, this has to work out. If not, it's been all for nothing. And what's the point?
Yeah. And I think that, like, something that was interesting in after the final episode is either Neil or Craig, I can't remember which one, says that this episode is about deprivation. And that, like, they really wanted to show, like, you know, like you said, like, Ellie fighting for her life and, like, the desperation in that too. But yeah, I think that, like, they talk about the violent heart line and how they felt like it was important to add that. But yeah, I think we have a great little segue into the next episode. First of all, like, a lot happened in this episode we just covered. Yes. Like, we just made a super condensed version. It was a lot. I feel like it was coherent and it made sense, but these last two episodes, a lot is packed in there. How do you feel about that, Jericho? Do you feel like it would have been useful to have one more episode? What do you think?
Yes, I wish we could have had one more. Like, there's bits of the beginning of this episode that I wish could have been in the... I've seen a few people say this, so I'm gonna jump into, like, I wish I had one more episode of just Joel and Ellie going through things. They're just trying to between here and there would have been pretty cool. Just to maybe
Like
I don't.
after this last episode between these
Yeah,
two, you
which
think? Yeah.
which I would say like they're trying like with the game they're trying to have these conversations at the right moments like they did in the game. But I would have
Mhm.
been fine with some of those conversations having being out of order or happening before they even get to the hospital. Like I don't know, like I would have liked one more episode to stretch out some stuff or just some dialogue between
Yeah.
them. It could have been before, it could have been after. I do think they could have had more time spent there. But
Mhm.
granted, every episode needs to be like it's. I could see the difficulty of making any game into a TV show that makes you want to watch the next episode. Like every
Yeah.
episode has to have something enough to keep you wanting to watch more.
Mhm.
Because with the game, you're just you're playing it, you're interacting. So
You're fighting,
oh,
yeah.
think about how much of the game is actually just gameplay, and then you get to these narrative cutscenes, and how I don't know, like I don't know
Yeah.
timing wise, like how much cutscene equals to this show, but I'm sure that's challenging. I don't know, like I'm sure that they obviously know what they're doing, but I don't know if that one more episode would have just like
Yeah.
would that also lose people being interested.
They also don't want to make stuff up and like add filler that doesn't exist in the game, I'm
I
sure,
want
cuz
them
like
to.
obviously.
We'll talk to this. Like I want them to be a little bit more. I want them to take more risks selling part
Okay.
two. Like I want them to get
Okay.
away from the game. Like not take away those big important points, but like they could. I would be fine with them. Now that we've watched the entire season, like I would be fine for them to do.
Have sprinkled some stuff in.
Yeah, sprinkle some stuff in. Some stuff can be out of order. Like as long as the big things are still like relevant and still hit me the same way, I'm cool with them changing up some stuff.
Which brings us to a really great segue of opening scene in the last episode, Look for the Light, episode 9. You get Ashley Johnson. You get Ellie's mother, which we get virtually, like we said the last episode, no background on, not a lot of background on, and we get to actually see it on screen, which is very different. You know, we get this context. Me and Jericho were texting each other like while we were watching it, so we were like, "Oh my god, the scene coming up is so good." So you know, we were wondering, and like I was on an episode of, oh, if you guys haven't watched, if you probably have if you are here, but I was on an episode of our podcast friends show where we talked about this, like theorizing, like where is she going to come in, and you guessed it perfectly. I think you guessed this exact scenario.
I was sort of running out of. I'm trying to get the note pulled up because sorry, I just want to make sure people
okay.
are watching what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to pull up a note that is from the game in Ellie's backpack from her mom.
Yeah.
And I cannot get it to show right. Let me try.
Oh, it's okay.
Let me try something different here.
Like we've always just kind of known that like Ellie doesn't remember her parents. We still know nothing about her dad, really. But we get with this opening scene with her, and she's pregnant, and she's running from the clickers, or from the infected, I mean. And we get to kind of almost see, and like what I also like about this show is like the stuff that they add. They don't necessarily like say like definitively like, okay, this is how you know she's immune. They give you this scene and they're like speculative, like, oh, this could be it, or like maybe it's something different, you know. Did you get it?
I'm working on it. It's a little tall. It's a tall boy, so I've got it. Like at least we can, you know, reading some of it. I think I remember. I think it was like a podcast later that was talking about it. Like Ashley Johnson was, maybe it was on the official podcast, but she talked about actually writing this letter. She wrote it to herself and kept it in her pocket while she was doing these scenes.
Oh wow!
So I thought it was pretty cool because the note's pretty, you know, it aligns with the game. Just talking about, you know, let's see, which you're not even a day old, and holding you is the most incredible thing I've ever done in my life. A life that's about to get cut a little short. So
so it's like she wrote this note after she knew she got bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I was wondering if they would show that at all, but maybe it was in between the scenes of her waiting. You know, she was
on Marlene to get there.
Marlene to get there, but
which, man, it's rough. Like, we see her literally give birth to Ellie and then immediately get bit, or like she gives birth like while she's fighting off the infected, which women,
Yeah.
we're strong. Um it's a fictional TV show, but yeah, so, and it's interesting because she gets bit, and while she's still attached to the umbilical cord, and I'm wondering, like, surely that's the reason why she's immune,
Could
is
be.
because
Could
it
be.
could be. They don't
Yeah.
ever say for sure.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense when you see it, I guess, like, it's something that maybe leaks into her literally. And so it's interesting because then you see Marlene shows up. It's almost like Ashley Johnson, or Anna is her name, right?
Yeah.
Um, was like trying to meet Marlene somewhere and then ran into the infected. So then Marlene gets there, and sees that her friend of like years and years since I think she said since they were kids, right? Is bitten. And Marlene is like having to come to terms with like what we've seen multiple times in this show and in the game throughout, is like having to make hard decisions for the people that you love, for their benefit, like ultimately for their benefit,
And
like
forced to kill your best friends. It really sucks.
Yeah, but the other option is to let them sit there and suffer and like
Right.
go slowly. So I mean, that's or potentially hurt your child that you just birthed. But Anna's top priority is making sure that Ellie is okay. So she lies and says that she cut the umbilical cord before she was bit, and she did not. So you caught that too? Yeah.
Yep.
So she's not taking any chances. She just says, yeah, I cut it before I was bit, and she didn't. So it's interesting.
I do have the back of the note pulled up too, because there's a backside to it as well. Like I said, you can view the note like in the game. If you look in Ellie's backpack, she has it in there. It's one of the little things to read. And on the back is talking about life is worth living. Find your purpose and fight for it. I see so much strength in you. I know you'll turn out to be the woman you're meant to be. Forever,
Aww.
your loving mother. Make me proud, Ellie. So, yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Aww.
To finally see her in the flesh, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it's one of the characters. It's one of the characters we've never actually seen. Like,
I love that it was Ashley Johnson.
Me too. How beautiful is that? How cool. And
it is really cool.
A couple of our friends have said, and one of my best friends, Haley, she texted me. She's like, I can recognize those grunts anywhere. Hearing her iconic, I can't do it. That's definitely not it, but that's not how she sounds. But yeah, cool stuff.
So we, and then the switchblade that she gives to Marlene for Ellie, her iconic switchblade. And then, the handoff that happens, and Marlene is ruthless and just bam, bam, like steps in and does the thing
without just sort of like just do it quick.
Yeah. And so then we, that scene's pretty quick, but I feel like it packs a good punch. And then we move on to the draft scene, Jerica. To the draft scene.
Finally happens.
I'm so glad. I was so worried.
But
I know I learned I wasn't the only one that thought that they were cheaping out on it and like they weren't going to give it to us. But they did.
I was wondering too, and I was like, are these going to be real giraffes or not when we finally get to it? Because I was like, they cannot not do the giraffe scene. Like, it's really thinking about Disney World without Mickey Mouse, like, what's the first thing you think about with Disney? It's Mickey Mouse. But, you see The Last of Us, first thing that pops into my head, is a switchblade, and then, like, the giraffes. Like, that's what comes to my brain. And also pain and despair are the emotions tied to
right,
it.
of course.
But yes. I love the build up to this part because, Joel's trying to pick up the emotion here and try to be there for Ellie and try to put her in a better mood. And he knows some tough stuff went down. What?
He asked if she wants to learn how to play the guitar.
Yeah, we heard that part. Like, hey, he's trying to just, be a friend and, say that he wants to teach her to play the guitar. Maybe he can do that one day once they are done. Ellie at this point, like I talked about earlier, is just, she's sort of over it. She's sort of just ready to get there and wants to feel like this is worth it, and Joel's trying so hard to make her feel better, but she's got a mission and she's focused on it. But yeah, we get to the point because she's been quiet this whole episode, and you get to a point where all the gamers rejoice. We got a scene with the ladder, and Joel
Give me a boost.
Joel asks if you need a boost, and she climbs up there, and I loved it. Was shot for shot, same from the game, and I loved it so much. I was like, yes, that scene can be identical. Give it to me. And
where she drops the ladder.
She's like, oh shit, and she like runs off, and Joel's like, what is it? What's going on? And he gets up there, and we finally get to see the giraffes. And how cool, because this scene is so important for the story, just because they're at a point where they feel like it does feel like hopeless, and was this worth it? You're questioning it all, and if it doesn't work, God, a lot of people have died, and like a lot of things have went down because of this choice to try to do this. And they have the giraffe scene where I think Ellie, it definitely puts a smile on her face, and Joel's able to sort of reflect and think, like, finally, like, in this one little moment, there's a protective bubble, and Ellie can just be a kid and not have to worry about, like, in this moment, I thought that was the biggest point. Like, Ellie is just so amazed to see these creatures up close and, like, petting them. And, like, you can see Pedro does a good job as sort of just, like, looking at her and just...
and the awe.
Just, like... This is amazing. This is so...
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
That this person can have gone through so much and still find these little joys and, like, still enjoy life, it seems, almost, like, in this small confined moment. I also think that there's, like, the stark contrast, and I recognize this a lot from the game, because you can sit here for a minute, I think, in the game. Yeah. Like there's a cutscene, obviously.
And you can just watch them.
But... Yep. Yeah, and so it's crazy to see, like, this huge, like, bright giraffe, like, contrast against, like, this dark, desolate, like, world.
And it's a real giraffe.
That's overgrown.
Got to see some behind the scenes. Like, they petted a real giraffe and fed a real giraffe, so it's pretty neat.
Yeah, how freaking cute is that? I would die.
I'm jealous.
Can you imagine?
I mean,
I would be so sad.
I recently fed a giraffe. Did it last year. 10 out of 10.
I didn't know that.
I recommend that. Go do it. They love
lick your hand.
Yeah, it touched me a little bit with the tongue.
Ugh.
They're cool. They're hungry. They eat a lot. They can eat a lot of leaves. I mean, they're massive critters. They're not a critter.
Literally.
Creature. Dinosaur.
Critter.
It's a dinosaur, basically. Giraffes are so unique looking. Sorry, you just never...
They really are.
It's like the most unique creature. I keep calling it a critter. It's not a rat or something, but they're massive. But you just sort of look at... I couldn't quit looking at them just because...
It's really weird.
It's like an alien. Like, this shouldn't be on the planet. It's the most unique looking critter. I'm going to keep calling them critters, but... Anyways.
So we get the iconic line, "It can't be for nothing."
Yep.
Which is, you know, very much like you've been saying, like we've been saying, like, last 2 episodes, very apparent that, like, sure, I love getting to know Joel, like, buddy, but also, like, why are we here? What's the goal? And then we hear another quote, "I'll follow you anywhere you go." We finished what we started, and, like, man, like, you're fully, like, we skipped over the baby girl scene in the last episode.
Yeah.
Where, like, it's so parallel to, like, you know, really quick for, like, most of you, I feel like, have played the game, and that's why you're here, but the first episode is called "When You're Lost in the Darkness," and the last one is called "Look for the Light," because that is like, you know, a quote that you see with this game and tied to it a lot, and it's, like, one of my favorite quotes, and, like, from the game, I feel like,
I mean, that's,
you know,
the Fireflies slogan.
Yeah. Yes. And so, you know, I think it really explains the parallel between from the first game to the first episode to the last. You know, you see him and his bond with Sarah, and his, you know, you see that broken man that he's become, and then you see Ellie has healed him, like we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, it's just very sad, and, like, him holding her. So then we get to one of my favorite pieces of dialogue and favorite moments from this episode. It's like, "So time heals all wounds, I guess." And then he says, "It wasn't time that did it."
I'd been like, stop being sappy, Joel. Stop it.
Yeah.
Would you stop it?
And well, that we're making it a big moment, but it almost like in the show, it's kind of like it's not. It's kind of just like a back and forth between them. Like it's not necessarily like his big moment.
Yeah.
But what is a big moment, I feel like, is the next like kind of as they're talking and this like kind of just reflecting and discussing. Like he opens up to her about him attempting to end his own life, which I don't think that was in the game.
No.
Was it?
No, it
That's
wasn't in the
new.
game. That's new. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, you know, given what he's talked about and like the things that he's had to go through and the hopelessness that he's described that he felt. It also makes sense in why he would be deaf in one ear, almost deaf in one ear.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so he goes into a little bit of detail about that and like how he essentially like missed and thought about his like, you know, purpose and was like, you know, I guess there's a reason why I should go on. So they get to the hospital, I think is where we're at now. Yeah. This happens pretty fast, I feel like. You know, we talked about this again. I think it would have, I wish this episode would have been longer.
I know, because like they're just walking towards the hospital and it's sort of like a little bit, you're like, turn around because you see these people like sneaking up on them. And I think Joel asked her like, hey, what about what you know what it's time for? Someone says it's time for a joke or a time for a pun.
Yeah.
And they were distracted.
He asked for a pun.
Yeah. And then they're attacked, and yeah, that it from here on out, everything's squeezed in, and we get to the end.
Oh yeah, it's a race. I was tempted to look at how much time was left, but I couldn't like stop staring.
I didn't want to know because I'm like, I bet we're running out of time. Because you know, we went into this episode knowing it was one of the shorter episodes.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh, why?
So then we get absolutely unhinged Joel, which we know and love. But first, I think it's cool, and I don't remember this bit of dialogue in the game. I don't remember if it's Marlene or one of the doctors that explains like how Ellie is the cure.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're still not 100% sure. They just know that it's going to be fatal no matter what. But basically they explain that she is the cure, or they believe her to be the cure, but that the infection has been in her since birth. And that she was bit. When she was bit, it recognized that she essentially was the infection. That's the way they kind of describe it. They're going to try to replicate that in others, but they have to take it from her brain.
All I remember from the game is that she was infected, but yeah, like yeah. I can't remember.
Basically, she is.
I feel like there's more here in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think they changed it up a little bit. I'm reading let's see. It's Marlene in the game. They just change what she said a little bit. So Marlene's also sharing these details in the game too.
Right. And obviously like they knocked Joel out in Ellie. Ellie's already been taken, you know, and like is like going about her like process to get her into surgery. And all of us collectively know what's about to happen if you have played, and we're all just
we were all curious
clenching
about
my butt. I was clenching my butt.
Yep. Butthole clench.
Ew.
Ew. It was clenched the whole time. And I'll tell you this, like this episode like made me shake a little bit because I was anticipating it so much. Like the giraffes, it was actually the first part in the game earlier with the giraffes that actually made me tear up. Like, I've been so amazed and just happy. Like, I think I've smiled through most of the episodes, even though some of it's pretty sad. Oh, besides...
I cried, like, this whole episode.
Bill and Frank episode, yes, I cried like a baby. I forgot about that. That one has made me cry the most. But the giraffes made me tear up. And then I'm just, like, shaking because you just know it's about to happen. And what were you going to say?
Nothing. I was just...
Yeah, and I was wondering what they were going to do to... Because obviously comparing to the game, you play Joel most of the time, so like in the player's hands, it's like it's just the boss fight. You're just fighting through, and everyone's the bad guy at this point because you've been in Joel's shoes for so long and doing this throughout the game, just killing clickers and people, people with no names, people that just don't matter. Like you stab and shoot a lot of people in this video game. Um, so with the show, I was wondering how they would really make it basically slow it. I sort of predicted they would slow it down a little bit. It happens fast, but it's slow. And they really want, they did a good job. I think they portrayed this part really well. They slow it down and there's some music, sort of like slower paced music played as he casually, like picking up trash off the floor, he quickly just turns a switch on and is like, I'm gonna get her out of here, and starts going to town and killing all these fireflies. But it's just sort of slow. I feel like it was sort of slow. Do you agree? Like, I feel like they slowed down.
Yeah,
they methodically goes through and kills these people like it's nothing. Like, this would have taken a lot of planning on my end. Okay, I'm like, okay, we got this person. It's like he's just able to react. Like, it is insane.
No, yeah. And I'm no film, I don't know how to produce and direct things, but obviously this was very important to get this right. The tone, the pacing, the music is all planned out to make you feel a certain way. And I think the plan was to make you feel like, oh shit, this is like wild. And like, no, and like the it's supposed to be morally divisive. Like, it is. That's the point. You're supposed to feel both ways about you're supposed to be
mixed. Like, you're like that's
the point.
You don't know what's supposed to be right, and it's just sad. All of it's just sad.
Nothing is telling you that this is the right or wrong answer. You're just seeing one man struggle with, and really there's not a decision is the thing. Like, you don't see him pause to like think this through. He's just like mowing through these people.
I'm about to save her. Like, and I'm going to do, it's like he literally turns off something in his brain or turns something else on.
Did you watch The Vampire Diaries?
A little bit. Watch
the humanity switch. It's just like he turned it off.
Yeah.
Like, they have like a humanity switch in The Vampire Diaries. And so like, it's like, he was just like, but at the same time, is he turning it on? Because like, he loves this kid. Like, this is his baby, basically. I love that you said that.
That is it. It's like, it's one or the other, but it's the same thing. It's just crazy how easily he does it without thinking about it. Like, he also has, just like Ellie, trying to get to the hospital. Like, this is his one priority, and he has the end goal that's going to happen no matter what. If not, I'm going to die trying. So.
Yeah, and like this whole journey has led up to this moment for them both. You know, she started out as just cargo. I'm getting you from point A to point B. And amongst point A to point B, so many lives have been lost. So many people that were important to them both have been lost. And like, so many things have happened.
Joel has started feeling emotions he hasn't felt since Sarah. And
yeah, the goal has always been the same.
He's scared. He hasn't been scared in a long time.
Yeah.
And he was so scared that he did this.
Yeah, I don't want to be on the wrong side of that scared. That's for sure.
No, I do not want to be around a scared Joel because it's terrifying.
So absolutely unhinged. The scene, and I know what's happening. I'm still like, I would have loved to have been in the room with somebody who didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I kind of have talked to some people who didn't. Didn't you have a friend who watched it who didn't play?
Yes, but I can't. We all really. I didn't really ask too much about that scene in particular. I think I just got to the point of like, what would you? Everybody that I've talked to that hasn't watched the show, we all sort of asked each other like, what would you do? What would you have done in this situation? And like, everyone doesn't know because you sort of, and maybe thinking on this, like, Joel just reacted, like his body reacted, and like, I don't know what took over. So maybe you just sort of don't know what you would do in this situation unless it was just happening, because you don't really, he doesn't have any time to react because they do give no choice. and it happens so fast. Like, he has to make a choice. Like, he has to do something fast.
I think even if he would have had time to ruminate on it, he would have made the same decision,
I'm
though.
curious. Yeah, like
I think so.
uh anywho.
And so, you know, we see he mows down everybody, gets to the room where she's about to be operated on. And it's interesting because, you know, I know what's going to happen, but I'm wondering, like, does Joel think he's going to be too late? Because he's not really rushed. I mean, I guess maybe it doesn't feel rushed.
I had a thought
maybe
come
because
up to
it's
me
in
that
slow-mo.
I should have brought this up later, but if I don't, I might forget because, you know, I have short-term memory loss today.
Dory.
Yep, that's it. Me saying we don't know if Joel would have done it with all the questions. Yeah, you all are right, because we actually get that confirmed at some point. If you know the dialogue I'm talking about.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I was just saying about, like, yeah, actually, you know, yeah, cool. I'm sorry. That's how my brain is working right now. What did you say?
So then we get to the actual hospital room, or the actual surgical room. And, you know, I've also seen, I'm on the TikTok, you know.
Kayla's on the TikToks.
I'm on the TikTok.
She's a cool TikTok gal.
So I've been seeing a lot of things. There was this one, I still can't remember if I sent this to you. I've sent you a lot of stuff. So where this guy is like, how did they know that she was going to be, like, why would they kill their only specimen that they have? Like, why wouldn't they have done some further testing? You know, like, they're just going to go ahead and just, like, take whatever they have out. Like, I don't know how they were so confident that this was the right decision from the medical standpoint.
I hope they sort of go into that, you know, at some point.
Maybe they do. And so then we, you know, we get to him, you know, he kills the doctor. And then he spares the two nurses that were in there. Did that happen in the game? I felt like he killed everybody in the game that was in the room.
I mean, you played. I think you could have done whatever you wanted to. I've seen someone kill the doctor with a flamethrower.
Oh,
I can't remember what the nurses though. I don't remember the nurses in the room. I think you kill everybody.
I think I killed everybody.
I mean, you're playing a game, so you're like, oh, bad guys, pew pew pew.
Yeah, but in the show, you know, oh man, it's just so ruthless. It is so rough. Like, it's just, man, it just really transports you. I was just sitting there like, just like I was in the game. But so then, you know, we get to the garage where he's holding Ellie. I also saw a meme that was like, man, you really trusted that elevator that probably hadn't been serviced in like 20 years.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, Patrick said it's certainly a bit sus that they jump right into removing the brain. Yeah, I guess maybe they think about the fact that, like,
I gotta go to the bathroom real quick.
Okay. I mean, I guess maybe they're thinking like this man that's with her probably doesn't want this to happen. You know what I mean? Like, surely that he's gonna put up a fight. So, but yeah, like, I'll post it on Instagram or something, the TikTok that I'm talking about. But like, he's like, oh, these are probably, like, you know, med students. Like, it's, you know, why? I'm sure there's people actively looking for like a vaccine and a cure, and I'm surely they have a knowledge base to go off of, or like have had other experiments they've done. So like, maybe they just don't go into that. But I'm just curious about that. You know, like, it's cool that in the show they give us that bit of context and like this more scientific aspects in the first episode, which is cool. But yeah, I just think that, like, yeah, so Patrick, for sure, I also get that we weren't supposed to ask questions, but yeah, it's just like, maybe do some tests. Yeah, like, you know, maybe if we take this little like piece off, but the whole point is that we're not supposed to have time for that, and that we're just jumping right into this very like Jericho was saying, like, instinctual and like knee-jerk reaction, like, this is what has to be done, so we're doing it. Yeah, I just think it doesn't make sense, but also it's not really supposed to make sense. So
what?
We're just talking about, so Patrick in the chat was saying, like, you know, yeah, I'm sure we're not supposed to ask questions, but like they could have done some tests first. But like again, they probably have been testing on other people, and like there's people actively working on a solution.
Oh, I can't wait to
So
see that unpacked because they got to. Come on, give us.
they will,
See,
especially from what they gave us in this first episode of this season.
Yeah, this exactly. I sort of forgot about all of that. God, that feels like so long ago now.
It does.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I sort of forgot about those bits before the first 2 episodes. But yeah, like this is the part I'm talking about. Like you don't have to follow the game. Like give me more of that. Give me more of those things because I just want it.
Yeah.
I just want more story to what I already know. That's the benefit of having this amazing show. Like give me more of those things.
Yeah, I also get the Fireflies jumping right in because they've been trying to figure out a cure for 20 years. Yeah, exactly. Because like they see this girl that you can see that she was bitten, but she's not changed. So they're like, oh, well, yeah. Like, and I'm sure like Marlene has talked to them already. And Marlene is probably like, hey, Joel. Well, no, she doesn't really know because they also, a interesting bit of dialogue when Marlene comes in is like, ooh, I guess things have changed for you. Like, I can see that.
I wonder if she's ever mentioned like, now my friend Anna, the mom, I'll tell you this, because like she could have gave some information. She told me she cut the cord before, she was bit or whatever. Marlene, maybe she's like, so Ellie's immune. Maybe she didn't cut the cord. This could be a possibility, doctor.
Maybe
the
this
doctor's
is what
gonna
happened,
be like, oh yes, I know that does give me all the answers I need. Yes, she lied. That's why she's immune. Yeah. It's in the brain. That's me being a doctor and knowing exactly what causes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You have a monocle. All doctors have monocles.
Right. No, but then we cut to the garage scene where Marlene intercepts Joel with holding Ellie. And we get the brutal scene of him gunning her down. And then like...
Then she's still alive.
Executioner style.
I feel so bad. Yeah, and that's the part where you're like,
I do, and
that's where you're just like,
I don't know.
I read some I've been hopping on Reddit, seeing people's reactions and stuff, and this guy had a post that was like, yeah, I think he said something like his mom's a doctor, and very, I don't know, I forgot the word he used to describe her, but he asked his mom like, what would you have done if it was me? And she's like, kill one to save many. Like, of course we would do that to save humanity. And then the son was like, comment like, wow, that's what my mom would do.
Well, okay. So quick spoiler disclaimer sort of for game 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Give you a few seconds.
Yeah.
That's what Abby's dad said to her.
I know.
Remember?
Yeah.
Like he was, because she asked him like, in one of the flashbacks, well, that's not, I guess you don't know who these people are then.
You don't know who these people are.
She asked him in one of the flashbacks, like, what would you do in this scenario if it was you? And I'm sure that like this is happening simultaneously while Joel's like knocked out in the other room or whatever. And he goes, yeah, I would basically, I forget his exact dialogue, but he's like, oh, well, I would do it for humanity and not you, basically. Yeah. And like, or no, is it that, or does Abby say like, I would have, I don't know. It's something like that.
I can't remember.
Some
yeah.
Sort of
I'm gonna have to go back and play the second game again.
Oh, me too.
I started it after I beat the remake, so I'm gonna have to definitely.
Nice.
Abby's dad's a coward.
Nice. Yes, basically. So basically, then we cut to them in the car. Ellie's coming to, and Joel has his speech ready, man. He's been thinking. On the road, he knows what he's gonna say. On the road again.
On the road.
I can't wait to get on the road again. So yeah, he says, yeah, so it didn't work, and turns out they like had it turns out that they had a bunch of other kids. And that it's almost like a bigger dig, because like, oh, you're not the only special one. He's like, oh, there's a lot of others like you, and like it still didn't work out. And then he says like they got raided or something, so they had to get out quick.
Yep.
And you can already kind of tell.
Ellie's like,
and that she's not super.
She's sus. She's like, this is sus. For sure.
And that's something that you, especially in the last scene, I'm so glad they ended it exactly how the game ended. You know, then we cut to them hiking up the mountain. Yes.
I wonder if she like started picking up on. I wonder if she ever had the thoughts like, I wonder if he is getting too attached and like, man, maybe this was a bad idea of me trying to connect with this guy. At some point, especially when he opens up to her and saying time heals whatever, you know, time didn't heal. It was whatever, you know, the quote was you said earlier.
Yeah.
I just wonder in her eyes if that clicked with her at all. Like maybe this was a bad idea. I don't think so because they just sort of start telling jokes and stuff before they're, you know, throwing a bomb.
I think she's just so happy to have a friend in this life and like a father figure that she doesn't even like realize the implications of, because she's not a parent and like she doesn't have that bond, so she can't really know the effect that it will have on him because she just can't conceptualize that. I don't think that she would even be able to like do that.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
But it is interesting because then we cut to the exact same scene as the game, them walking up the mountain together, like, and she like asked him like, are you sure everything that you told me, like you promise it's true? And
just even asking it like that, you know, you should know she is on to you. I'm like, it's like me saying, are you telling me the truth about this shirt?
Yeah,
about the other shirt.
You already know.
You know, like when you are pleading anything, are you telling me the truth? I'd be like, oh no, they think I'm lying.
Yeah, exactly. And so I have this quote written down, but I can't remember exactly when it was said. But if you just keep going, you find something new to fight for. And yeah, I mean, that's what he did. Like he found his like purpose again, and his purpose is her. And I am curious if he would have been honest with her here, would it have turned out differently?
I think it would have, for sure. Like I think she would have been, I think it would have had a similar outcome, but obviously like as we know some things, like I think it would have worked out eventually, but she needed it.
I do too.
Yeah, I don't think she would have left. I think, or you know, obviously she probably can't leave. She's a kid, but we know Ellie. If she's really upset, she would definitely exit the situation. But I think she would have stayed.
I think especially because of how attached she was to him too at this point. Like I'm sure, like a lot of her didn't want to lose him, and I think this was her giving him the opportunity to fess up.
Yeah.
And you know, hoping that it's not true, but like I think this was her giving him the window of opportunity to be like, hey, like they were gonna do this to you, and like that couldn't happen. So
okay.
Yeah.
She gave him a chance. Second chance.
I think that's what was happening. Again, we can't know how he would have reacted in this moment, or how she would have reacted in this moment. I mean, but like,
something just clicked with me. I wonder, you know, what did Maria tell her about? Like, was it something about the ones you love, trust you? What was the thing she said?
I can see if I can find it.
Because that's a new line from the show, and I'm curious to see how that works.
I got it.
Okay.
Be careful who you put your faith in. The only people who can betray us are the ones you trust.
Boom. Oh my god. Look at that. Look at that tie-in. Good job. Y'all did it. Well.
Yeah.
Yep, she's thinking for herself here, yep. And she's probably just like, okay, this is how it's gonna be. Hey, that lady was right.
He wouldn't lie to me. Hey, he wouldn't do that.
He wouldn't.
You know?
He wouldn't.
Yeah, no.
Okay, cool.
But, okay, here's my only critique.
Okay.
And it's not even really a critique. It's more just like, we were also discussing before the episode, like, it's just impossible for it to feel the exact same way that the game feels. Not to say that one is better or worse. Like, I think that it's both amazing, but it's just not going to be the exact same, and that's fine. But I feel like what might have been, it seemed a little bit less. Oh, and sorry, Peachwag in the chat said, and she's talking specifically about Joel then too. Yes, because they were talking about some
Not,
things that they had
she's
done.
like, I know
Yeah.
some things, shady shit that Joel's done. Are you sure you
Yeah.
you know who this guy is?
Yeah. And so like be careful who you trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely interesting. I feel like in the game, and you get a better feel for how important being the cure is to Ellie.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not quite portrayed in the same severity in the show of like how desperate she is for this to like be like, you know, in the game that she, and I don't know the exact dialogue, I can't quote it, but like she basically says like, I'm willing to die for this in the game. She like makes that's her like life mission, and I feel like it's not quite the same in the show, like that impact. Do you kind of feel the same way, or
No,
do you have
I
any
agree.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they definitely could have had a few more moments, just simply them talking about it. You know,
Yeah.
I think we got a glimpse of that after coming back from, you know, surviving David's situation with how quiet she gets. Like, I think we should have seen a little bit more of that to really, I don't know. Like, I'm sure there's multiple things they could have done to.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that.
But I think that it still hits home, and like it's still, especially
people are
when
still asking, like I think the goal was to ask the question like, what would you do? And everyone's, you know, back and forth. So
I think that the second game and the second season show more the ramifications of these decisions, as you can probably assume as the viewer.
And would you do it again? Like, did you learn from it, or is it something that,
and how
you know, can you learn from it, and when does it stop? Who knows? I don't know.
And how does it affect the person whose choice got robbed from them? Also,
yeah,
because she didn't get to make that decision for herself.
Nope.
You know, that decision was made for her. Granted, it was made for her by an adult that cared about her, but like obviously these are not the normal parental, like, you know, what's the CASA, not CASA, what's the medical laws? I forget the acronym, but you know what I mean.
Let me put on my monocle. Maybe I can remember.
I don't know. You know, whatever.
Is it HIPAA?
Yes, HIPAA. Yes.
There we go. See, it works.
Normal HIPAA rules don't apply.
I have to put my monocle on.
Yes, CASA. That's like foster system. Yeah. So I don't know. That was my only thing. Is like I feel like you're right. What we could have gotten that from is maybe like another episode, like in between these last two, or like maybe just some more pointed conversations about it. But I think ultimately, like the end result is the same. The message is the same. You know, I think that it's just like maybe something that you get more from like playing as her character and like spending maybe a little bit more time with her, just her.
Yep.
All maybe that is
don't take Ellie's choices away from her.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Don't do that. Man, so I couldn't be more excited for another season.
Let's go.
Of this
I'm
show
so ready.
it
can't come soon enough. Like it's already been way too late. I needed this. I need the second season like yesterday, the day before.
They still haven't said anything about when their film. I think they said they were going to start soon.
All that happened, I think there was an interview with Pedro, and they were just like, "So you starting on that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's spring. Yeah. It could be. That'd be a good time." So.
Yeah. So hopefully soon. I think we predicted maybe like around January of next year. Maybe.
Yeah. I could definitely see. Yeah. So technically, they got started. I can't remember. I need to look up when they actually started filming. It wasn't as long as
we can do that on our speculation episode.
It wasn't as long as I thought. So, yeah, I think it's a lot sooner than we think.
I think that it's very important. Like I loved the after the episode of this episode, the like thoughts. I think it's very important if you really want to know like the intended impact of the game and the story.
Yeah.
And it talks about why Craig like picked it up and like why he wanted to see Neil's like vision seen. And I forget which one of them says this, but they really ring home like it's not the show and the message and the story is not just about the beautiful parts of love, but it's also about the dark side of love and like what happens with that. And I think that is a really great point, you know.
That's why it's so good.
Woo! I'm sad it's over.
Me too.
I'm very sad it's over.
Well, I'm ready to rank these episodes. You know what I'm saying? Ready to do that?
Let's do it. Oh, hi, Bobcat CR. Welcome. You're catching us on the tail end, but go back and watch the rest.
But yeah, ultimately, I can't wait to rank these things. I can't wait to talk to you on we're gonna have a couple more episodes of ClickerBait before we wrap up season 1 of ClickerBait. So excited to say there will be a part 2 to this show, just like the game. And then, after we do our ratings crossover episode, Spotlight Games, we will then do a episode just with all. My favorite thing to do is predict, and we're going to do some fan casting. We got some new characters that are about to be thrown in the mix, so possibly who could play those characters, what we want, what we predict, hopes and dreams, all that fun stuff. Like, I cannot wait to speculate with you, Kayla.
Me too. That's one of my favorite things to do. And I love, like, you guys can it's just kind of fun to go back and listen to our older episodes on jkgames where we do this. We do a fan casting for Last of Us. I forget, like, who all we fan casted, but I'm sure it would be funny to... we fan casted the girl from Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Or that one still I feel like would be good. But yeah, so we'll definitely do that. And we'll be posting... Oh, I forgot to let you know if you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And
that thing.
Everything.
It's in the bottom
just
right
JK Games
corner.
Podcast. Yeah. Go back.
Right there.
We'll announce when we're gonna do all of that. So definitely would love for you to be a part of it. But yeah, that's our last recap, but not our last thing from us. So don't worry. But lots to come.
Until then, obviously you should definitely follow the channel. Hang out. Kayla plays a lot of Fortnite and Apex. Hey. She's a professional. Don't let her tell you anything different.
Don't come in expecting me to be a professional.
She's a professional. Yeah, just watch her.
I also have some. I really want to have some fun. Yeah. Professional, recreational.
That's it. That's all you gotta be.
I want to do a series soon where I'm going to play through the Mass Effect games for the first time and recap them with Jerica. For sure soon.
Oh, God. If that ever becomes a show, too, I might just, like, self-combust, just explode. Like, and my body parts will be everywhere. Please don't eat them. Okay.
No. A good, really quick thought, because I'm the same as you, got to get a thought out there before we end, and to have you guys hold us accountable. A cool episode idea would be, and maybe this is a welcome back JK Games episode.
Let's go.
Like what games would you most want to be shows?
Let's do it. Yeah. Well, let's see if there's any left, because I feel like every PlayStation game's turning into some show now. So
that's true. True.
There's some other IP I'd be interested to see if there's a show. Yeah, we should do that as well.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Mass Effect would be a good one for sure. All righty then, guys. Thank you guys for joining. I'm excited to speculate with you, Jerica.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll catch you guys on the flippy flop.
Don't stop.
I
beat you to it.